Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Bryan from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Security Squawk podcast. I'm Bryan here with Randy and Andre. What's up, guys? How's it going today?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
It's going really good. It's raining like crazy over here in Texas. We really have two seasons over here, drought and flood. So We just hit flood season, and it's been just nonstop rain for days, which is awesome. We needed it really, really bad. Fills up all the underground aquifers and all that stuff in the lakes. So yeah.
And we have hot and hotter.
That's right.
So what's up, everyone out there in the interwebs lands? I'm going to apologize for Andre's internet early on here in the show. He's a little fuzzy and he's a little laggy, so you might have some audio issues along the way there, but we'll make do if it does cause a problem. So, guys, we got a bunch of stuff going on. A ransomware group posted a countdown clock next to Zara, Carnival, and 7-Eleven this week and said, I'm quoting here, "Don't be the next headline." And today is the day that the clock ran out. So we're going to jump into that story. So if you own a business, or you run a company, or you run the IT at a company, right? Or you sign a check at a company, this show is for you. That's who this show's for. So today, as I mentioned, Andre is going to walk us through the ShinyHunters' latest extortion campaign against Zara, Carnival, Cruise Lines, and 7-Eleven, all today with a deadline. I'm going to talk about a story about the Everest ransomware group putting two major U.S. banks on notice. And we're talking the kind of data that can wreck someone's financial life for years. Randy, you're going to dive into the Vercel breach, which started with one employee downloading an AI tool and ended with hackers trying to sell the company's internal systems for $2 million. So we're going to get into that today. Is Andre with us? Nope. We got to bring him in.
I think he's going to reset his internet. So
Hey, I'm here.
Oh, wow, you're nice and clear.
Yep. Which is the importance of always having some type of backup internet. So I'm on my hotspot.
Ooh, man, backup is very important.
So, Andre, we're going to start with you because your story, like my story, has a timestamp attached to it. And we got the wrong one up.
Yeah, there we go. So you got ShinyHunters, one of the most prolific cyber criminal groups, I think, that we've seen. They posted the three major companies that I mentioned on their dark web extortion leak site this week with a deadline of today, April 21st. Lots of deadlines today in the world. And they weren't subtle about it. So let us know what happened. Let's get into it. Give us the details.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have, as you mentioned, ShinyHunters, and they are running what is called a pay or leak. So, hey, we have your data, and either you pay us or we are going to leak it to the world and sell it. So they're not encrypting the information. They're just strictly stealing the data, and then now applying pressure to these companies to pay. And typically with these pressures, first they try to do an internal, hey, we have your data. We don't need to tell the world about this. Just go ahead and pay us and life moves on. But if those companies are trying to do hard negotiations or just flat out ignore them, then they now leak it to the media to say, hey, as we see here, April 21st, we have a countdown. So we see also that these companies aren't being breached directly. So Zara, Carnival, Cruise Line, 7-Eleven, It's actually, as we always talked about on our show, third-party vendors. So we're talking about Salesforce a lot of times, where these are massive databases of information. And if they can get into the Salesforce, essentially, then they have all of the information they need. They, in a sense, download it. And then from there, they go back and say, we have this information. So this is just another thing to always think about. Is like, okay, great. We have, made sure that we have guarded our computers, our systems in our office, our firewalls, and so forth like that. But you always have to remember all of these secondary tools that you're using to do your job and for your employees to do your job, just like how we saw last week. It's also important to make sure that those third-party systems are secure. And we are also seeing even an uptick because this bypasses how they're getting in. They're getting in with stolen authentication tokens. So they're bypassing the traditional MFA settings, and just another way for them to go around. So we'll see how this goes. We can do a follow-up to see if they actually released it or to see things quiet down. But it's just another reason why you have to remember to secure every vendor, every software as a service, which is also called SaaS tool. And if there's something that integrates into your systems, you have to look at that as a way for that data to go out.
Anything you want to start with, Randy, or you want me to go?
Well, I actually was laughing at the beginning, not because it's funny, but because this seems to be the theme for the last couple of months of you're somewhere along the way, somebody getting hacked in your supply chain. And then also I was, I don't know if chuckling is the right word, but also this idea, we've been talking about this for probably 2 years, that we're going to see more and more just the whole pay up or get leaked. They go in, they get the stuff, they hold it ransom. They're not even like encrypting the machines, because that's just like a pain in the butt for everybody. They're just taking the data, they're putting it out there, and they're saying, we're going to let it go if you don't pay up. So, wow, good article to talk about.
Yes, sir. And this ShinyHunters group, guys, this group had 4 of its members arrested by French law enforcement in June of 2025. So 4 members, right? So that gives you a perspective on potentially how big this group could be. It's been reported that this group operates internationally, so it's an international coalition. It's just not regionalized. And international coordination took them down. Big press release from Europol, and this group didn't miss a beat. They didn't slow down. They didn't pause. They came back. They breached 300 to 400 more companies using a tool Google's own security research team have released to help defenders. So they turned a defense tool into a weapon. So when people ask, why don't they just go after or arrest these guys? The answer is they already have. They already did. And they just keep coming back. We got to ask why that is, right? Because these groups are resilient and they keep hitting companies. So any last thoughts there, guys, before we move on?
Go ahead, Randy.
Well, so ShinyHunters, they're the ones that are really good at social engineering, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So is that how they got into these particular ones that are that this article talks about?
I don't know, Andre.
Not sure.
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't. This group is very good at, I would say, initial access at per se social, right? They can get in, whether it's social, whether it's through 0 days, vulnerabilities. They're very good at getting in. And that's what they did with when I mentioned they use Google's own security research team's tools to get in. They turned that into a weapon to get into 300 companies. So they're very good at what they do. They're very big.
in my opinion, they operate worldwide. They have a network across the world, heavily centralized in Europe, in Eastern Europe, but they operate across the globe. We've seen ShinyHunters reports that they operate out of the UK, out of different areas. So it's a big group, a lot of people spread far and wide. Going to be a tough group to bring down in the long run. And they continue to wreak havoc in the world. So any last thoughts? We good to go? All right, cool.
Yep, good to go.
All right, before we move on, if you're finding value in what we are putting together here every week, do us a favor, leave a review wherever you're listening right now. It takes 30 seconds. It helps other business owners who need this information actually find the show. And I'm going to jump into my story here, guys, if I can find my graphic. There we go. And the thing I want to talk about this week is about your money, or at least the institutions holding on to it, because on April 20th, 2026, yesterday, a ransomware group called Everest posted 2 major American banks on their dark web extortion portal or leak site. If you don't know what that is, there's an area of the web that is, I would say, somewhat advanced, not difficult to access, but somewhat advanced to access, called the dark web. It's where a lot of these cyber criminal groups and other criminals operate. And in that area of the web, they post who they attack or who they exploit or who they're able to, steal data from or put ransomware on their systems. So in this case, Frost Bank out of San Antonio, Texas, and Citizens Bank, which happens to be, guys, the 18th largest bank in the United States. Now, let me give you some scale here. Frost Bank's been around since 1868. Over 150 years of building trust in Texas communities. They have $53 billion in assets. They've won multiple awards from the likes of J.D. Power for customer satisfaction. And for 17 consecutive years, they've won that award.
Yep.
Citizens Bank, however, on the other hand, they have $227.9 billion in assets, almost 4 times what the Texas Bank has, and about 1,000 branches across 14 states. My point here is, guys, these are not fly-by-night institutions. These banks are pillars of the American banking system. And Everest is claiming they have about 380 gigabytes of stolen data from their network. That includes 250,000 Social Security numbers and tax ID numbers. 3.4 million banking processing records with full names, full addresses, and full account numbers. Here's the one that really got me, guys. Unencrypted credit card authorization forms, full card numbers, the CVV codes, and the expiration dates, along with the billing addresses attached to those numbers. Not encrypted, raw, plain text data. Now, neither bank is admitting or confirming the scope of the breach yet, but the group has countdown timers running on their dark web leak site, and Everest has a track record. Examples are Under Armour, AT&T, Petrobras, airports in Dublin, London, and Brussels. They've all been hit by this group, and they've all moved forward with their threats and executed on them. So these aren't empty threats. So there's a layer of irony here that I can't let slide. In April of last year, guys, exactly 1 year ago, Everest's own dark web leak site was hacked and defaced by somebody who left a message, "Don't do crime, crime is bad, XOXO from Prague." So a little bit of an embarrassing counterattack, a little bit of kind of dark web, cybersecurity, cyber criminal fodder that a lot of people don't ever really hear this stuff or know about it. But their dark site, leak site, went dark, and everyone essentially wrote this group off. They were done. They were dead. And then 6 months later, they were back targeting critical infrastructure across Europe. So this group that got hit shook it off, came back swinging, And two of the most trusted banks in America are now supposedly down. Any thoughts here, guys?
Yeah, do we know what's down right now? Say like at both banks, like
They don't
everything.
have. Well, they're not down, but they stole all that data that I mentioned. So this is probably more than likely, in my opinion, a third party breach. Right? Because the banks, why I say that is because when organizations come out and they're like, we don't even know what the heck they're talking about, that's a clear cut sign that their network probably wasn't breached. And if it was, oh boy, like we got bigger problems. More than likely something, I mean, that's a lot of information though to give to a third party. So it makes you wonder, right? So
remember, I think what was it, a couple of weeks ago on our podcast, and one of these companies gave the marketing company all of this access accidentally.
Right.
So this would be crazy. I mean, but this is beyond gross negligence. You might as well just have given the bad guy the printer to print the credit cards. I mean, you gave him every single thing. So massive PCI violations. We're going to see lawsuits. We're going to see. I wouldn't even be surprised if their insurance company denies them, because this is just like this is security 101. It's crazy.
There's a lot more in PCI issues here.
Yeah, you said the bank was from the 1830s. Like it's like their compliance is from the 1830s, right?
Hey, so if you're a customer of these banks, Citizens or Frost, you can call them today, but I would call them today and request that they put fraud alerts on your business accounts. And if you have ACH transfers or payroll running through those banks, pull your last 90 days of statements and look for anything unusual. And moving forward, make sure you're monitoring this stuff. If your business keeps credit card authorization forms on file, which is common in B2B, especially in like the hospitality world, those should be treated as compromised until you can verify otherwise, right? So anything that you have in your systems that you're using for your business to transfer money, move money, if you're a customer, Frost or Citizens, you got to consider all that information compromised at this point. So,
and also, if you're a customer of one of these banks, you're going to want to make sure that you have your credit reports frozen, basically. And what that means is when people try to open an account, they can hit your credit bureau record or whatever to find out your credit. If you have it locked, then people can't open up accounts in your name using that credit. And we've been saying that for like 4 years to have that done. It's really worth the time. It takes about 20 minutes per credit bureau to set that up. You set a little pin and basically it just stays frozen. And then when you want to go in and open up an account or, get a new loan or whatever, you go in, you unfreeze it, set up the new account, and you freeze it right back. In fact, I'm pretty sure 2 of them at least you can just set to like a 30-minute thaw, and then they automatically refreeze. But that's a great way to protect yourself when stuff like this goes down as an individual.
Yep. Always good to have that automatic refreeze on, depending on what you're doing, right? So interesting, Randy. Before I jump over to your topic, and Andre kind of alluded to it, but I really want to highlight it, right? Banks have been targeted forever. And what bothers me with this whole situation is that you have a bank running unencrypted credit card data. In 2026, that's a basic. It's not even a negotiable standard, in my opinion, that somebody even thought this was a good idea at this bank. CVV code should never be stored. I don't care if you're the issuer of the card or whatever, right? They should never be stored because that's the code, right? That's the thing next to your zip code. You gotta have 3 things to make your credit card transaction go through. You gotta have a valid card number that matches a CVV code that matches a zip code. If you have those 3 things, you're gonna get an approval, right? So that's why PCI exists. That's why Andre mentioned it. And PCI compliance failure is what this attack highlighted. The attack didn't cause the PCI failure. The PCI failure has always been there. The attack highlighted the fact that the bank was operating this way. The cyber criminals just exposed it. And that's what bothers me most about this whole entire story. So, ready to move on, Randy?
Yes, sir.
All right, before we do, head over to securitysquawk.com. That's our website where we post resources connected to every story we cover. So if you want to know more about what to do if your bank or your is a ransomware target or their data is stolen, you can head over there and check that out. Randy, you've been sitting on the Vercel story. I know it's a good one. So we're going to bring the floor over to you, sir. So if anyone doesn't know what Vercel is, right? I picked the right person here. Yep, there we go. Vercel is very integrated in the AI world. And Randy's going to fill us in on what that means. But more than likely, if you're in that world and you're a developer, maybe a vibe coder, hosting applications, you have a SaaS product, a web app, customer-facing dashboard, there's a pretty good chance you're running on Vercel. So,
Right.
Randy, what's happening here?
All right. So we had a little bit of a breach at Vercel. Like Bryan mentioned, Vercel it's a company that does a lot of stuff, not just in the vibe coding world, but they are the company that does Next.js. They do V0, which that's used a lot in the vibe coding world. And basically, okay, so let me step back. Vibe coding is when you sit down with Claude and you don't know how to code at all.
Right, you don't like Lovable? You hate Lovable?
Or Lovable, yeah, whatever. No, you sit down with an AI or whatever, and you come up with an app. And I think why Vercel is so popular is that for whatever reason, it's super popular with Claude. So if you come up with an app that has like a little web interface or something like that, Vercel has a free account that you can set up with that web interface and, blah, blah, blah. That's the reason why the story caught my eye. So how it happened, though, also caught my eye because the employee at Vercel who was hacked, quote unquote, he was using an app called Context.ai. It's an AI that they're using there in his company. And when he signed into Context AI with his Google workspace, he said, allow all. So he gave Context.ai's extension full access to his Vercel employee Google workspace. Okay, so first red flag right there. So let's hop over to Context.ai. Context.ai, who had that extension, Context.ai itself was also hacked back in March. So about a month ago, guys, this is where it gets crazy. A developer at Context.ai was looking on the internet for Roblox cheats. Okay, so that is just, I'm going to have to hold up. I'm going to go there in just a second. He was looking for Roblox cheats. He got infected by a malware called Shiny Lumens. And okay, so that's just a malware. What kind of story is that? Well, it even that has its own crazy, you can't make this up part to it, because Shiny Lumens is an affiliate malware. That means that somebody somewhere is in their ivory tower programming it, and they basically have affiliates and they sell it out as subscriptions. Whoever had that subscription, we call it ransomware as a service. Whoever had that was able to inject the malware into a Roblox cheat that a developer at Context.ai was looking for Roblox cheats. Okay, I'm not even going to touch that one. But that was how they got into Context.ai which is how Context.ai got into the Google workspace of the Vercel employee. Couple of things here, and then I want to let you guys chime in. Context.ai, relatively new. Maybe they're doing a lot of vibe coding. I don't know. Guys, if you're out there and you're thinking up and dreaming up and working on a team that's developing brand new software, you've got to start from day zero. You've got, and no pun intended, you've got to start with full stack cybersecurity. You can't just be using my personal computer, you know, and after I get off work at Context.ai, or maybe during work, I don't know, I'm downloading Roblox cheats because, you know, I'm really into Roblox or whatever. You have to separate the work from the play or whatever. Get on different devices or whatever. That's a red flag right there. And the crazy thing is, a developer at a startup was the weakest link in this chain. And then all the way you come to this chain, and we come right back to Vercel, which is a really big company. They are really valuable during this stage of technology. They have a lot of good products that people are using to build out apps and stuff like that. And they were breached because of a vendor and a developer who I'm not sure what happened there, but you know, I already kind of touched on it. So bottom line, this really caught my eye because this is very popular right now in 2026. Especially their front end stuff, very popular, and Claude loves to use it. I tried to go to the Context.ai website, and my SASE wouldn't let me go. It said it was a malicious website. Another reason why you got to be security first from day zero, because of the reputation hit that you will take. And guys, I know I just dumped a lot of stuff. I want to hear what y'all have to say about it.
I mean, I think this AI integration within companies is, for us cybersecurity professionals, going to be the greatest threat because, like, we took over a client about 3 weeks ago, and our normal Microsoft, what we call a Microsoft baseline, basically our standards that we have in baseline, it actually blocked all AI tools. And we were so surprised of all of the phone calls we got the other day when we enabled it. Now, we should have probably asked, you know, which AI tools you're using. So that was a lesson learned. But nevertheless, we got so many calls of this one particular client. Oh, I'm using, you know, ChatGPT, I'm using Canva, and all of these single sign-ons that's being used that got blocked. And the thing is, the owner knew about it. But again, it's like, we're going so fast with this AI stuff that we're not taking into the security integration. And as you mentioned, once you check mark that allows to see all that data, where they can see all that data. And, you know, these companies, yeah, they're big companies. It could be open source companies or whatever, but there's that blind trust of, because I'm check marking this, oh, this company is famous, everybody's using it, it must be good. And then we fall into these situations, which is like a super crazy web, this Vercel breach. So I think that it's our greatest, not a greatest threat to downfall, but it's like, this could be something, again, where you're doing everything right on your side, but then one of these AI tools takes us down.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you have a developer at a company who, we see this all the time when we run audits. I mean, M365, Google Workspace, people running around with full rights to everything all the time, right? Standard users, you know, and sounds like that's what happened here, right? This guy kind of had full access to the Google Workspace of this company, apparently was dumping everything in there. And the hackers just needed a conduit to get into that data, right? And they weren't doing a good job of protecting that data, but they connected that AI tool to their whole entire environment
not knowing that the AI tool was already hacked. And upon doing so, here we are, right? API keys, all kinds of development stuff was stored in this Google Workspace, right? So not only is it just poor security all around, poor decision making all around, clearly a lack of separation of duties, right? This guy shouldn't have been able to do all this and allow himself to have this level of access without somebody checking it, saying like, hey, like that tool might have a little too much access to all of our stuff. Like, let's segment it off to maybe a test area or your stuff, you know, whatever. But you got to figure that out, and you got to work together as a unit, as a team, as a company to figure out all this stuff, right? And you need to go into everybody. The advice I got to give you today is you need to go into your Google Workspace in your M365 admin console today. Look at the third-party apps your employees have connected, and I'll bet there are apps in there that nobody on your team can identify. They don't know what they are. And the reality of it is that's a real-time security problem, just like Vercel had, right? So any of those things that are connected to your environment could potentially be the way that hackers steal that data, encrypt it, do whatever they want to it. So it's really important you do that today and know, because I can't sit here and say what level of access your people have and don't have, but I've seen it more than enough times to say it's a problem that companies allow employees to just install these things in their M365 or their Google Workspace without any approval, without anyone looking it over, without anyone saying, yeah, this is okay to connect to our tenant. They just allow it. And that's a problem. And people are like, I don't know, people that work at companies where that's not a thing probably are like, how can that be? But guys, back me up here. I'm right. Like, this happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's not always malicious. Sometimes it is. In fact, there's some like 365 enterprise apps that we blow a gasket if we see one of those get loaded into one of our clients' tenants. But sometimes it's well-meaning, like this person trying to use context.ai. I know one of our clients recently asked for approval for something very similar to this. And so I just picked up the phone and texted them right away. And I'm like, you know that when you give access to this particular extension, it will read everything on the entire page. And this was a CEO that deals with sensitive data. Right. So basically you're saying this extension that you want to load onto your browser is going to have access to everything that's on that window where you are. And once I told him that, he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. And then sometimes, like I just saw just yesterday, got a request from one of our customers. They're setting up an AI employee, and the AI employee wanted a M365 app so it could send emails. It was trying to get around having to do the MFA, and it wasn't being malicious. It was just trying to find the least path of resistance. And, you know, I called them right away, and we found an easier way to do it that still has MFA. They still have control, basically, where they're seeing the AI employee like they would an employee and then going from there, and it worked perfectly. So sometimes when you're doing these vibe coding things, it will suggest something that could put you at risk because it doesn't really know any better. I mean, I guess it knows better, but it's trying to make you have the easiest way forward. So I'm kind of off on a tangent there. But 100% agree. That's great advice, Bryan, is to have people check those apps that are installed in your tenant, whether Google Workspace or 365, because you'll never know what you'll find there. And if you find something a little sketchy, that's really concerning.
Yeah. And this is why it's so important for us as the technology advisors, managed service providers, to have these conversations with our clients in the beginning, Because if a client is calling you at the time when they're trying to install one of these tools and all of a sudden you want to talk to them about AI, they're going to be like, hey, too late, buddy. I've already made up my mind. I'm going to go ahead and install this app, insert the password now. Versus a conversation 6 months ago saying, I am your AI advisor. Let's talk about this. Let's make sure that we have a game plan. This is why we don't want to just go wild, wild west. Then from there, they'll be calling you to be like, okay, so what should we do and so forth like that. So it's going to be an interesting year with the AI. That's my prediction. So go back to our show back in December. I'm going to change whatever I said, and this is my new prediction.
Not allowed. It's a party foul. Yeah, I mean, Randy, like you were pointing out when you were talking, you know, that's your clients obviously have that kind of stop, right? You're that stop. And then you can kind of have that conversation. My bigger concern is the companies that don't have that stop, where they set up their tenant, the green light's there. I was just thinking about the other day, right? I was doing something in Claude, and it's like, do you want me to make this into a PowerPoint? And I was like, sure. And then after it made the PowerPoint, it was like, hey, you can install Claude for PowerPoint. And I was like, wow. And then I downloaded that PowerPoint from Claude, opened it in PowerPoint, and the very first thing that popped up was install Claude for PowerPoint. So my point here is like your employees are being inundated by these companies to install these tools. They don't know any better, as Randy said. They think it's like going to help them make their job easier, but they don't know that when you do that, you're now telling Claude you can have access to my M365. It looks like a little helper tool for PowerPoint, and nobody would ever think that it's getting deeper access than just PowerPoint, but it is, and people have to be aware of that stuff. So, all right, guys, let's bring this sucker home. 3 stories this week, and I want you to notice the thread that runs through all of them. ShinyHunters didn't hack Zara; they hacked a vendor called Anodot, and that Zara trusted. And Everest didn't just find a weakness at Frost and Citizens. They found that unencrypted credit card data was sitting there waiting to be taken. And the Vercel breach didn't start at Vercel. It started at an AI tool that a Vercel employee gave full access to their corporate account. The common thread is this: your security is not about what you built or what you locked down. It's about everything and everyone connected to it. Your vendors, your employees, tools, integrations. The perimeter is now gone. Your attack surface is now every tool in your stack, every app your employees use, and every company in your supply chain. We've talked about this at length on this podcast for the last 6 months. The businesses that survive this environment, this world, AI, as Andre said, is going to get really interesting. The ones that stop are the ones that stop thinking of security as a wall around their own house and start thinking of it as a question that they ask about everything that's going to connect to them or their technology. That's it for today's episode of Security Squawk. If this conversation was useful to you, we ask that you share it with another business owner who needs to hear it. And as always, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to us right now. Leave us a review if you haven't done that already. It takes less than 30 seconds, and it makes a real difference. And always, you can visit us at our website, securitysquawk.com, for resources, past episodes, and show notes. And as always, keep the sponsors away, keep the vendors away. Head on over to say buymeacoffee.com/securitysquawk. Oh, yeah, they gave us that widget. I'll throw it up on the screen. QR code up on the screen. Just scan it, and you can head over to Buy Me a Coffee. Donate whatever you want. It helps Andre, Randy, and I get some sustentation, right? Coffee, right? Keeps us going. But it also keeps the vendors and annoying sponsors and ads away, so we can bring this to you ad-free and just the goods in about 30, 45 minutes. So,
and pay for my internet. So
That's
I
right.
know to pay for better internet.
Yeah. Andre had to downgrade to ASDN. So we'll see everyone next week. Take care. Stay safe. Be well.